Good morning, everyone. My name is Teddy Fikre, and I'm running for Congress to represent the Commonwealth of Virginia's 8th Congressional District, which is comprised of Alexandria, Arlington, and parts of Fairfax. Over the coming days, I'm going to start rolling out policies, which I plan to fight for as part of the campaign. And if if I earn the trust of the voters here in the 8th Congressional District, which I plan to fight for when I actually get into Congress. And these policies range from economic policies, tax policies, education, healthcare. So I'm going to start being a lot more specific about these things. But for the sake of today, there's another aspect besides the policies which I plan to really stand up for. Policies which I believe are much needed in order to give the working class, the middle class, and the poor, as we call the bottom 99% of Americans, I call us the blessed 99%, fighting chance to be able to make something of our lives. As it stands right now, the status quo, it's wealth is forget trickle down economics. It's more like choke up economics, where wealth is being transferred upwards and poverty is being socialized. And I think the time has come finally for us, we the people, to have a voice in Congress. The wealthiest 1% have 435 representatives, 100 senators, and a president. It's time for us to finally have a seat at the table. But besides the fact that I really do want to stand up for and speak for we the people, as we're called, there's another reason why I'm running, which is to really, in a way, change the tone and tenor of the conversations that we're having as a people, as Americans. I see where this is headed, and it's very problematic. The idea of having a civilized discussion, that being able to disagree without being disagreeable, it's almost becoming passé. And the way that the public discourse has become so toxic that even if we wanted to get policies passed or affect politics in a positive way, we just can't, because we can't stitch together a coalition to be able to affect the change that we actually want. So part of that, as much as I'm running for political office, for me, I kind of see the broader problem. It feels to me like the spirit of America has been broken. So this is as much a spiritual battle as much as it is a political battle. And when I say a spiritual battle, I mean my intent. The other day I said I have no intention of becoming America's Dr. Phil, nor is my aim to be America's minister. But as a person of faith, I believe deeply in my heart in free will. So I'm not here to push my religious views on anyone. That's a matter between me and God. But it's precisely because I believe so deeply in free will that I kind of see the problem of that. We live in a time where free will has become almost non-existent, where government is basically telling us what to do at all times. Our tax, our earning powers are being diminished precisely because we're outsourcing our power to the DC, and our communities are being broken. And in response to this, this level of hopelessness and anger that imbues, then we in return we respond with anger and vitriol. So it's almost like the snake eating the head, and where on one side we're being treated unfairly, and then to that treatment we're reacting with anger and rage. I harken back to what Martin Luther King says, and part of my spiritual walk, my understanding of Jesus, for example, or the teachings of the Bible, is that we're not supposed to, we're not supposed to react with anger. We're not supposed to pay back evil with evil. There's a pragmatic reason for this, because when you respond back to malice, to indifference, to antipathy with malice, antipathy, and indifference, you perpetuate the status quo. There's, like Martin Luther King once said, you can't drive out anger with anger. You can't drive out darkness with darkness. You can only do that through love. So there's a reason why love is at the core of my message. It's not only because my last name in Amharic means my love, which, when it says Fikre for Virginia, it's my love for Virginia. But it's because I believe deeply in my heart that love is the only way forward. Part of my narrative is the fact that 7 years ago, I went through 2.5 years of homelessness. I talked to a voter yesterday at a Three Whistle Cafe, and we were having a conversation back and forth. And I think for the most part, we agreed on a lot of things, and there were a few things that we disagreed upon. And then I told him about how I went from being a partisan to being independent. And when I told her about what I went through in terms of going through homelessness and emerging on the other side and being restored. And he passed an advice to me, which is, and I took it to heart, because I learned just as much from people as I learned from reading books, from researching. It's about listening to people. And by the way, this idea of listening, we live in a time where too many of us act like we have it all figured out. And listening to people, listening to learn, listening to empathize, listening to understand that there's a common walk and a common struggle that we all are going through. That's becoming non-existent because we're kind of going into groupthink. We're going into our tribal corners, and we only want to listen to people that think and sometimes look like us, and we're ghettoizing ourselves. We're balkanizing America, and this goes to the spiritual brokenness of America, because the sense of a common purpose and a common walk is being eviscerated by exclusionary thinking. There was one thing that Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Bobby Kennedy, Fred Hampton, a lot of great thinkers in the 1960s, they started realizing one thing, that there's a commonality of our pains, and that the only way that we could make a difference in this world and to better America and to perfect our union is to actually push policies that through a sense of inclusive justice, where all have a fair shot, where the pains of all are being addressed. But these days we're heading in the opposite direction, where we fight for us, and the idea of justice becomes just us, not justice. Justice for all. That's what there is no way to arrive at justice unless the pains of all are being addressed. And like I said before, I will never diminish racism. I will never diminish sexism and a lot of things that affect specific communities. But there's an underlying injustice, and that's the one of economic inequalities. And unless we get to a point where everyone feels like they have a stake, an equity, then we're kind of spinning our wheels. But beyond that, though, we the people must actually get to a point of letting empathy and compassion be our North Stars, instead of being vindictive, instead of raging against the machine. If you look, the way that the status quo is maintained, and I'm not really trying to go into this us versus them, I'm trying to walk away from that. But it's there are some who really are very good at making us rage against injustice everywhere, right? Without addressing the root causes. Thoreau once said, for everyone that's hacking at the root, there's 1,000 hacking at the branches. And we've become a society and a nation of branch hackers. Very few of us are digging at the root. And the root, as far as I'm concerned, is twofold. One is, like I said, economic inequalities. As long as opportunities are being limited, where there's policies that are being enacted that transfers wealth upward, and then for the rest of us, we're eating crumbs. We're fighting over crumbs. It doesn't have to be this way. As I said in a previous video, the rich will benefit if the poor, the middle class, the working class if we are able to actually, be able to do something with our lives, be able to have some type of economic security. Because if we don't, first off, that could lead to destabilization. And I came to America specifically because of destabilization. I mean, Ethiopia, well, there was a famine that occurred in the 1960s that led to a revolution. Shortly thereafter, the revolution led to 500,000 people dying. So when people feel impoverished, hungry, famished for some type of hope, and they feel hopeless, it gives birth to strife, and then strife gives birth to violence. And in that, one only has to look back to the French Revolution to realize that nobody's safe in that paradigm, including the rich. They could hire all the security that they want. They could hire all they could build all the walls that they want, but nothing could hold back the people that are really upset. But so there's a better way, which is to have equity for all and equality of opportunities. But beyond that, though, it's up to us. The again, I don't refer to us as the blessed 99. I mean, the Bible 99%, the blessed 99%, or just the average person. And to be honest, it's all up to all of us, the rich and poor and all in between, the billionaire and the homeless and all in between, to change the way that we view each other, and to respond not with vitriol when we see something wrong, but to respond with a level of humanity, And it's hard, by the way. Lord knows I go through my struggle. When somebody comes at me with a level of pettiness, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to respond back with, either compassion or at the very least, don't become angry and wrathful. That's a form of disempowerment. When you respond back with to injustice with anger, then you're letting yourself become a victim, and that's double victimization. We all get in this life. Life victimizes all of us, but we don't have to be a victim. We don't have to be victims. And one of the things that the voter asked me yesterday at Three Whistles is this: I understand that you went through homelessness, but I think what America, that's not even what he asked. It's more like an advice, which I'm taking to heart. He said, no, I understand, I get it that you went through homelessness, but I think what people really want is, how did you get out of that? What concrete steps did you take to go from that level of despair to being restored again? And I agree with him. What people want more than anything else is not to revel in sorrow, not to revel in this idea that we've become victimized by life, but a way out. Because in a way, we're all struggling, right? Some are just better actors than others. But there's not one person in this world that doesn't go through life and hit their head, bump their heads against some type of obstacle that really makes them reassess life, and sometimes it knocks the wind out of them. But it was precisely during those moments that growth happens. And so for me, I spent almost a year and a half being bitter, being wrathful, wanting to be vindicated. And it wasn't until I started actually being grateful for the small things, gratitude for the smallest things, that my life started to turn around. And I had, there was a chaplain that I would see once a week when I was in Colorado. And he handed me a notebook. He said, start writing. And I was so despondent at that time when he gave me that notebook. At first I said, for what? But then I took his advice and I started writing. Wrote a couple of sentences here and there, a paragraph. And the next thing you know, I wrote a book, my first book. I'm not going to plug the book here. This is not the purpose of this video. But, it taught me a lot about myself when I started being grateful, when I started writing, when I started turning something that was a downturn in my life into a source of inspiration. These moments of hardship, they come and go. But just like the night turns to day, the day eventually at some point turns to night as well. This is life. We will go through our struggles, then we will go through our moments of sunlight, but then we will go through our moments of struggle again. And what I learned the most is the importance of having a community of people that encourage each other. In the past, when my father passed away, when I've had some very turbulent times, I would withdraw, and that would lead into very bad ramifications because when you withdraw during your moments of sadness, you have nothing but to sit with your pain. And too many of us, especially sadly, us men, we have a tendency to kind of just take on pains by ourselves and think we could overcome by ourselves. I learned during the hardest chapter of my life the value of community. And in a lot of ways, that's the reason why I'm running for office too. It's because community, we need community. We don't need, people from 1,000 miles away trying to tell us and dictate to us what we need to do in our communities. We need to empower ourselves and empower our communities. And that's how we make America great. Not through, legislation from DC, but through empowerment where we live, community empowerment. When with the policies that I'm going to be, rolling out over the coming days, it's precisely to strengthen the individual, as in enabling us to keep more of our tax dollars, our earning power, to be able to graduate from college without being laden with six figures of debt, without being taxed to death, without being levied with things like toll roads on the very roads that we built. We're not being taxed on the back end. These things are deeply unfair. We're being nickel and dime to death. Meanwhile, the billionaires are effectively paying zero taxes. Not fair. But as much as we want to, as far as building up the individual, the next step within that is to build up and strengthen the community as well. So we strengthen the individual, give the individual the chance to succeed, and we empower the communities. And that is how we could do better for ourselves and hand our children a future worth fighting for. Instead of saddling them with debt and hopelessness, we empower them. And we cannot empower our children unless we feel empowered ourselves. And that's why I'm running for Congress. And if you want to know more about the reasons why I'm running, and like I said the other day, this campaign is kind of novel in a way. I'm doing things very different. You're not going to see slick ads and talking points. I'm talking straight from the heart, right? So there's no teleprompter in front of me. I'm just basically ad-libbing, because this is what you shouldn't have to write down and prepare for what you are going to fight for when you get to DC. The only thing that you have to write down and script out is if you don't really believe it, if you're playing a part, if you're acting. I'm not acting. This is what I believe in my heart. So I invite you to join this campaign. If you go to the website www.fikre4va.com, and you see it on the bottom side of this video as well. Check. The website is being built out as we go. I call it growing as we go. This is literally an organic campaign. I have a theory that the time has come for something that's truly authentic, a campaign that's driven by the people, of the people, for the people, to overcome campaigns that are being financed by the machine of Wall Street, by the machine of central banking, by the machine of the plutocracy. So that's what Fikre for Virginia is about, and I hope you join me in this journey. If you want to know more, if you want to be a part of this campaign as well, email us at info@fikre4va.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed Sunday, and more to come.